Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about HubSpot. If you're hustling in the trenches to build a business or bootstrapping one of your own, let's talk about an AI-powered tool that can lighten up your workload a bit. HubSpot's Campaign Assistant is a game changer for creating marketing campaigns at scale. It quickly turns your key selling points into a cohesive pitch, which helps you deliver knockout emails, ads, and landing pages in minutes. So let Campaign Assistant take care of the campaigns so you can get back to growing your business. Work smarter, not harder at HubSpot.com/campaign-assistant.
Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, December 11th. I'm Ben Berkley, here with Juliet, Bennett, Rylah, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. We are going to be talking about advancements in medical technology today, as successful clinical trials of a vitals tracking digital pill have got us dreaming of an easier, healthier future. We're sliding ever closer toward that just since life, people. Let's talk about some of the barriers that we have in accomplishing it. We'll get there in just a bit. But first, let's get you up to speed with everything else making headlines in the world of business and tech today. Bloomberg is out with its annual ranking of the world's richest families. Abu Dhabi's Al Nahyans and their $305 billion in wealth are atop the list. This is also their debut on the list. That's one way to come in with a debut. Second place is the Walton family, previously the number one entrant on the list. They're having some rough times. Their collective wealth is only $259.7 billion. Onward to Peach Fuzz, which is the 2024 color of the year per Pantone. The reason is it, quote, resonates with compassion, offers a tactile embrace, and effortlessly bridges the youthful with the timeless. Couldn't have said it better myself. Also couldn't have said that about literally any color. Very poetic. Moving on to Disney. A judge will allow 9,000 women to file a class action pay discrimination suit against the company. This is the largest ever suit filed under California's Equal Pay Act. The claim includes employees across the Disney empire. That includes Disneyland, some Disney film and TV studios, and Disney cruise workers. And that probably will be a really hefty sum if it makes it all the way through the process. Smile Direct Club, which is the telehealth orthodontics company, it is going to be no more. They filed for bankruptcy in September, and now they have just liquidated operations entirely. They had about $900 million in debt, and if you are looking for a place to get braces, might just be a regular orthodontist visit for you in the future. White Claw, which is a central player in the rise of the hard seltzer business, is now expanding outside of the hard, which is to say they're just going alcohol-free with their latest line of drinks. White Claw 0% alcohol is the name of the brand. It will debut in January, and also to lean into another trend beyond just the kind of lacking alcohol is it's going to contain electrolytes for hydration. And let's do one more before we get to our main story. And of course, it's going to be Taylor Swift, because we can't make it a single day without talking about her setting a new record. This one is pretty big. Taylor Swift has hit officially the first tour to cross the $1 billion milestone in gross ticket sales. Her Eras tour has generated an estimated $1.04 billion in sales, and that's according to Polestar. And that runs from the 12-month period from November 2022 to November 2023, and that covers 4.35 million tickets for 60 shows and doesn't even cover merch or anything like that. So really happy for Taylor Swift, who really, had made it a couple days without being in the news for her many billions of dollars. Okay, let's move on to our main story today, which falls into one of our favorite categories, when modern life starts to resemble science fiction. In this instance, we're talking about the electronic pill, which may be getting closer to becoming a more regular thing in medicine. Today's story focuses on clinical trials done by a company called Celero Systems. They have started testing a pill about the size of a standard multivitamin. They've loaded this thing with sensors, a radio antenna, a microprocessor, and a tiny battery. And this little guy is meant to enter your digestive system and monitor your heart rate, your breathing rate, and your core temperature from inside. It will then kind of transmit its measurements back to HQ before winding its way through your system and ultimately touching down in its final porcelain resting place a few days later. As a starting place, this pill is being used to potentially diagnose sleep apnea, and early results are showing it's actually working. The ingestible is about as accurate as today's standard sleep study, strap into all the devices method, and that's a start. So before we kind of get into any further specifics in this ingestible medicine space, let's just kind of look at it from like a vibes perspective. Juliet, how are you feeling about this ingestible tech?
I love it. I love it so much.
What's thrilling you?
Well, I think one of my main questions is the cost effectiveness of it, because I assume they're not reusable. I mean, let's just be real here. You poop it out. Let's not beat around the bush. That's what's happening here, right? And then I presume it can't be recovered. So it's like a one-time thing. I would wonder about the cost effectiveness of that, I suppose. That's like the one question I have is like, how expensive is this pill and how much money does it save since it can't be reused? Unlike, a blood pressure cuff or a thermometer. That said, yeah, I love this. I love this idea. I think I'm just really open to stuff like this. I don't know how much I've talked about this on the podcast, but like I have a chronic digestive illness where like basically my gut was ruined by food poisoning. And so I am constantly taking all manner of weird pills and having an upper endoscopies, so like I'm just really comfortable with this idea. I'm sure some people will be like, no, they're going to implant nanobots and 5G HOTS. I don't know, but I'm sure there'll be conspiracy theories. But once you've been to the doctor as many times as I have, I feel like you just don't care. You're like, sure, yeah, give me the new thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting on a couple of points here that are really interesting, where from a patient perspective, I think there's a lot of positives. I think one thing that you're seeing in this, it could be a really big cost savings and just time saving thing where, one potential application for this that Celero is thinking about down the road is, can this kind of become the standard at-home way to monitor vitals? That said, you're kind of tapping into this like business side of it. Can this actually be workable from a financial angle? And I think that's still something that's very unclear. It's also important to note this is not the first attempt in this ingestible tracking space. Very notably, there's a company called Proteus, which filed for bankruptcy in 2000. This was because insurers and physicians really balked at using their pill, which was also kind of filled with sensors. But if it can happen, there's just so much potential in this space.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now at one of these devices that does a capsule endoscopy. And I'm wondering how much more cost effective that would be. Basically, an endoscopy, they put a camera all the way down. So, you got to go in, you've got to do anesthesia. It's like a whole process. It takes you out for an entire day because you got to be put under, and then there's the whole camera thing, blah, blah, blah. This looks like the idea would be that, yeah, you swallow this capsule and it would just take pictures as it goes down there. I mean, this sounds great.
It does sound great. I think that there's obviously, just because we've spent a lot of time in the business and tech sphere, and anytime you see some sort of like new med tech come along, you're just kind of, your guards up against like, am I getting Theranosed here? Like, is this thing actually for real? Is there hope for this product to really break through? And at some point, something in this space will. You just know it will. Like, we're going to live a Jetsons life, ultimately, where the tech is our doctor more than the doctor's our doctor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think people would potentially warm up to something like this if the financial benefits were there. I once had a test that cost $1,400 even with insurance, where I ate, I don't want to say it was like a radioactive sandwich, but it was the most expensive egg sandwich I've ever eaten. I think if the applications are there, I could see this being very useful, especially if you can stay home and do it.
Yeah, and I think that there's so much potential for this technology, and Celero, just for kind of, we look at what's next for them. Obviously, they're trying to, push the pace on more clinical trials in the sleep apnea direction. They're also trying to turn the corner on how they can have a pill like this that releases medicine, where I think they're planning trials for next year on something like that, which their hope is that if they can also learn to keep this pill in the body longer in a safe manner, and, can they deliver overdose reversing drugs and really be a part of solving the opioid crisis, which is also would be great. This is just such an interesting space, technologically speaking. And then obviously, how do you make it work from a business perspective? We will see. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning in to the Hustle Daily Show. We are a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Ezra Trupiano, and our executive producer is Darren Clarke. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email. And we will see you tomorrow.
Let me tell you about a show that I've been loving lately. It's called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's hosted by the incredible John Lee Dumas. It's available now on the HubSpot Podcast Network. Entrepreneurs on Fire stokes inspiration and shares strategies to fire up your entrepreneurial journey and create the life that you've always dreamed of. I'm a big fan of this podcast. It has energy, it has value, and it's all about learning about entrepreneurship. I was just listening to an episode the other day. JLD interviewed Jay Rogers, who was such a wealth of information. He kind of went into how entrepreneurship chooses you. You don't necessarily choose it, and that failure only happens when you stop trying to win. A lot of gems in this one, so I highly recommend checking out that particular episode along with the rest. So go listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire wherever you get your podcasts. Hey guys, if you listen to the Hustle Daily Show on Google Podcasts, we want to let you know that the option will no longer be available pretty soon. Google is sunsetting its podcast app sometime in early 2024 in favor of YouTube Music, and we want to give you a heads up before it's too late, since that time's almost here. The Hustle Daily Show is available everywhere and anywhere that you listen to podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're using YouTube Music, we are there as well. If you're an Android fan, there are plenty of apps like Overcast, Pocket Casts, Player FM, and more. So just search for us wherever you decide to listen to your favorite podcasts.